Another Locked On 49ers crossover. Arizona Cardinals, San Francisco 49ers, Week 18. Niners with a lot to play for. The Cardinals, not so much. Biggest stories, key matchups, and predictions coming up right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker here of Locked On 49ers with Alex Clancy of Locked On Cardinals. Another Locked On Podcast Network crossover here. Week 18 edition. I've talked a lot with Alex Clancy this year. I'm excited to do it again here for the last time. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to see the Cardinals in the playoffs this year for part 3 of this one in the 2022-2023 season. I do want to thank everybody for making Locked On 49ers and Locked On Cardinals your first listens every day on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode, Crossover Thursday, presented by our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks, so much fun, and it's easy to play. No competing with other players, just you versus the projections available. Pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on that entry. It can literally take less than 60 seconds to enter. It is that easy. We love PrizePicks. We know you will too. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com. Promo code Locked On. All right, Alex. Biggest stories is the first part of this thing, and I'm already detecting a little bit of saltiness from you about the way this Cardinals, not even saltiness, more just frustration about what has gone on with the Cardinals this year, and maybe even lingering issues from past years that have not been addressed and cleaned up by the Arizona Cardinals. How far off am I right now?
You wouldn't ask that question if you do. You were 100% spot on, Brian Peacock. So, yeah, it's been tough. I'm not one to blame injuries ever, and I feel like both of you subscribe to that same, magazine subscription where it's like, unless your quarterback goes down and you don't have 38 quarterbacks in the best offensive line in football to, boost up Mr. Irrelevant, the Cardinals have had massive injuries, but that's not really the reason why they are where they are. It's not the main reason why they are where they are. This started in the offseason. Clunkiness all the way through, extensions that maybe shouldn't have been given. Kyler Murray getting his extension as well. I'm not grouping that in with an extension that shouldn't have been given. And then, the biggest, the key here, the biggest storyline is we may have seen DeAndre Hopkins play his last game as an Arizona Cardinal. And that's something that shattered. And I don't know if that's true. That's speculative, but my biggest fear going into this season was with DeAndre Hopkins on the shelf for the first 6 weeks with the PED suspension, Hollywood Brown coming in, they traded a first and got a third in Hollywood Brown back in the draft, was that we wouldn't see DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown play meaningful snaps together, which means we wouldn't be able to say, lock it in for 2023, whatever the price is, because these two are special on the field together. Hollywood Brown gets hurt the week that DeAndre Hopkins is set to come back. They high-five, they tag team like they're wrestling WCW in the early 90s. And then at that point, Kyler Murray's hurt when they come back. The first time they played together in a full game was with Colt McCoy against the 49ers in Mexico City. And then now we're looking at this we have no idea what it would have looked like. So it gives Michael Bidwell an out to not pay both of them like I think they should. So the biggest storylines have already happened coming into this game. Now, about this game, you're going to see James Conner didn't practice yesterday. So I don't know if they're going to put him on the shelf. I want to see James Conner play in this game because I want to remove every single brain cell that thinks that the Cardinals should draft Bijan Robinson with a top 5 pick. Even though he's a transcendent talent out of Texas, you can check out Eric Crocker, Locked On NFL Draft, who's probably talked glowingly about this transcendent running back, that the Cardinals have not eaten their vegetables enough in recent drafts to be able to draft a player like this. I want to see James Conner play so we can see he's a running back for the next couple of years, draft a defensive tackle, and move the hell on into the second and third round of the draft. That was long-winded, but there are a lot of storylines that have happened that have brought us to this point.
I'm not one to – it is weird because I think Bijan Robinson is worthy just in the sense of his ability to be a top 10, top 15 pick. but I still don't think the value of running back just matches up well. And is it as important to really turn around the Arizona Cardinals and what's going on? So do you think it is this magic pill of, hey, let's go get this, 3-down back out of Texas, and that's going to change everything that's going on? Or do you think there's other things? And I outside looking in, think some of it has to do with the guy who's leading the team, and that's Kyler Murray. I know he's hurt right now, but even when he's in there, something feels off. Something doesn't feel right. We see the kind of back and forth between him and his head coach, Cliff Kingsbury. The way that this season has gone, can we directly point to Kyler Murray and how he handles himself, how he carries himself, the leader that he is or isn't? Or do you think it's a multitude of things?
TBD. And it sucks that we're going into year 5 and it's still to be determined. Like, I am in the camp that Kyler Murray is going at this in open waters on his own without a life raft. Like, I think he's teaching himself how to play football at an NFL level. And yes, he probably can be a little bit more demonstrative in a positive way. Yes, he's got some growing to do in the leadership, realm of this. But look at what happened in New York this year with Daniel Jones. Look at what happened with Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence. Kyler Murray is fighting an uphill battle by himself, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, and that's just another storyline, man, that we're dealing with, that looking to to Northern California is something that was much maligned from me on this podcast. Like, they're overhyped for no reason. They're like Notre Dame and the Cowboys and whatever. And then Kyle Shanahan has grown into being an elite head coach. He wasn't initially. I think you can attest to that as well, especially when they won less than 4 games and then he made the Super Bowl the next year. He got better every year. And Cliff Kingsbury plateaued after 2020, and it was, marred by this 7-0 start and 10-2 start last year that made him look a lot better than I think he is, not only as a head coach, but as a mentor for Kyler Murray.
No, I think you nailed it. Yeah, and Kyle Shanahan definitely had some growing pains, and so did John Lynch when they came in together, both first time on the job in those positions. They made some mistakes, they got better, and they built themselves a pretty nasty powerhouse team where you could plug in a 7th-round quarterback that looks as good as Brock Purdy does right now. It's pretty phenomenal what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have done, and they're going to be on the tops of lists for coach and executive of the year for the reason. And I think that's what you have to point to with the Arizona Cardinals, right? Is even beyond Kyler Murray, it's above that. It's the decision makers, it's the head coach, and it's probably the right time to tear it all down. There's going to be more growing pains next year with the Kyler Murray injury and how long that goes into the season. But you've got to build. I think you got to build a better foundation with the Cardinals. I think that's just the clearest thing, and you're not going to bring in a running back and move the needle at all organizationally with the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, look at what the 49ers have done. I mean, look at what you got. Look at what they've done. I mean, Javon Kinlaw maybe wasn't the best move by John Lynch trading away DeForest Buckner, but I mean, Nick Bosa too. You could have picked Nick Bosa or Quinnen Williams, and it both would have worked out. Nick Bosa is obviously the leader in the clubhouse right now because he's, when he's on the field, he's more of an impact maker off the edge. But like, build the lines. It's what the Cardinals haven't done, and this is something that they're reaping what they've sowed at this point. And we're looking in Week 18 with them winning less than 5 games. It's like you can kind of be predictive. Now I've talked this whole time. Biggest storylines for you getting in here. I mean, the 49ers are in a position to have an outside chance to get the number 1 overall seed, correct? If the pins fall correctly. Mm-hmm. Who is Brock Purdy and why is this happening?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, it's simple for the 49ers to get the 1 seed. They win, Eagles lose. And they get the 1 seed. The Niners could still end up with 1, 2, or 3 in the NFC. And with the Cowboys and the Eagles could go 1, 2, or 5. Cowboys could go 1, 2, or 5 as well still. But Brock Purdy, I don't know what's I always go back to, I think it was after Brock Purdy's first start. It was against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And after the game, one of the reporters asked, I'm paraphrasing, what is happening right now? Why are you so good? He's like, oh, I don't know. I just do what the coach tells me to do. And it was just like, and Kyle Shanahan's over there just like, yes, finally got one of those. That's, he's Jimmy Garoppolo. Like the way I describe to someone who's never seen Brock Purdy play is like, if you've seen Jimmy Garoppolo play, imagine if like how good a quarterback would Jimmy Garoppolo be? If it's like, okay, you have Jimmy Garoppolo plus takes a couple more chances and throws a better deep ball and makes some bigger plays, can get out of the pocket a little bit more and make some off schedule throws and, off platform throws and turns the ball over a little bit less. That's a pretty damn good quarterback. And that's all.
He's almost 10 years younger also, isn't he? I mean, he's 5 or 6 years younger. Yeah.
Yeah. 20, he
but
just
I
turned
mean,
23.
with him, and I know we're going long here. Sorry, Ross, but like with this always happens. You should know this by now with 49ers and Cardinals is it was the double screen fake touchdown throw to George Kittle. Like that was that against Seattle?
Yes.
It was the dump off right, dump off left fake. George Kittle wide open in the middle of the end zone or right in the middle of the field. He is going to be a product of this system that is now so solidified that anybody could run it. And that's not taking away from Brock Purdy. You still have to execute. You got the defense, got the run game, got the offensive line. All he needs to do is not make mistakes, and they're going to flourish. He's going to have time, and that just showed. I mean, that play call in of itself, I just turned the game off. I'm like, I don't need to see anything else. But, like, that just showed me that, like, he's just a product and executing properly the system that's put in place for him to run.
I did see a tweet right before we came on here, and on Twitter, her name is Sid the Catfish. And she kind of alluded to what you were saying there by saying, hey, like, you know, the whole notion that you can put any quarterback on this offense and they'll excel is tiring. Is that really true, or is it just a way to downplay how well Brock Purdy's playing? And I did respond to that, and I said it's kind of a combination of both.
It could be
because
both.
when you watch it and a lot of some of the explosive plays and things like that, it's like the guys are wide open. But we have seen guys open for other quarterbacks, and maybe they don't see it, or maybe they missed the throw. And I think more than any other quarterback that we've seen consistently play for the 49ers, I think he's done a better job of being more consistent with making those throws and seeing them. There's still one here and there if you watch all 22 and don't know exactly what his reads are. But for the most part, when that person is open down the field, he gets it to him. He doesn't have the biggest arm, but if a guy's open and you deliver it on time, you don't need the biggest arm for that. And I think he does a good job of really, you start talking about, Kyle Shanahan and his impact and faking left, faking right, throwing it to George Kittle, and some of the things he's asking him to do. Kyle has said it before, or one of his coaches. The quarterback doesn't make this system. The system makes the quarterback. So if you can just find a quarterback that the system can make and he can excel and then make a play here and there off script, you'll have a damn good quarterback. And I think that's what Brock Purdy's been doing.
Absolutely. He's hitting the layups, but he's making a few plays too. And he's been impressive in that regard, being able to get out of the pocket and do more than I would have expected, which has been so fun. And to be honest with you, with now seeing more and more games, and he still hasn't, he still hasn't turned into that pumpkin, which was like after the first game, you're like, oh, maybe let's see what happens with Brock Purdy. He's playing some of the best ball. Really, he's played the best quarterback that Kyle Shanahan's had in 5 years. He's a rookie 7th round pick. So
the last two first halves weren't great, but then he bounced back, and I thought he had very strong second halves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the first half against the Buccaneers was the best half of quarterback play that Kyle Shanahan's had with the 49ers. To me, period. So he's doing some things on his own, but he's taking the layups too, and that's
the passing offense is better. Yeah, I would say, like just the eye test, and I don't think there's a lot.
They're leaning on him too. They're throwing a lot. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not shying away from the quarterback and leaning on the run. They're actually letting him play, which is testament to how much confidence he has in himself, how confident he plays, and how confident Kyle Shanahan is in Brock Purdy too.
I don't think that you've seen anything that says like, wow, that was a special throw, right? So you're not quite getting that. I think underneath there have been some line of scrimmage to about 8 yards where he might drop the arm down, sidearm, a throw out there. You kind of, you kind of seen that. But as far as like, wow, did you see that throw? You don't see that, but he hasn't had to be that guy. And I don't think he is that guy. So just keep doing what you're doing. That has gotten to the point where you're completing like 70% of your passes and you're still being able to throw the ball downfield and do those things and rarely turn the ball over. He has had some turnover worthy throws. He had a pick 6 against a team. It got called back for holding away. He did have a ball that hit a guy in the chest at safety against, I think it was the Seahawks, Diggs. Diggs never drops those. He dropped it. So there have been some of those, but for the most part, there have been a lot more good than bad. A lot. All right,
Alex's camera went out because he was tired of hearing us talk glowingly about Brock Purdy and what he looked like in Week 18. Of course, that's one of the key matchups is how the Arizona Cardinals defense defends that 49ers pass game. We'll talk about some more key matchups coming up in this game and make some predictions as well for Week 18 next. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at BetOnline.net, your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. Make sure you get yourself informed before you make those bets at BetOnline, and you can do both there. A couple of touchdowns. The 49ers are favored against the David Blough-led Arizona Cardinals. More on David Blough's skill set in a moment, but you can get the latest odds every single week of the NFL season, including playoffs and Super Bowl, and tons of props as well. Draft props starting to pop up as well at BetOnline. Trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from NFL football to college football and bowl season, college basketball, NBA, esports. They've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, which I know you do, you can find those at BetOnline. Always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting information. Head over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more at BetOnline, where the game starts. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers and Locked On Cardinals your first listens every day. Subscribe up to Locked On NFL, featuring one Alex Clancy, and also the Peacock and Williamson show is on the Locked On NFL channel on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed up there to the Locked On NFL channel for all the biggest NFL stories, in-depth analysis on the biggest games, NFL key predictions every Friday and Monday. Local insiders cover the weekend with game-to-game episodes. Locked On NFL, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. It's official, right? David Blough starting against the 49ers in Week 18, Alex?
Yep.
What's the scouting report there? So this is what happens. This is what part of the Brock Purdy conversation. We've seen it with the 49ers, and it was Nick Mullins. And this is prolonged now. We saw Nick Mullins a couple games like, Kyle Shanahan.
You don't need Jimmy G.
Don't need Jimmy G. You see the stats on the round. It's like Joe Montana, Steve Young, Nick Mullins, best quarterbacks over this many games in 49ers history and NFL history.
No, NFL history. It was
NFL
like
history, right.
There's only been three quarterbacks.
Yeah.
There's only been three quarterbacks that throw for more yards than Nick Mullins in their first 16 starts.
Right.
In the entire NFL history.
Yeah, it's crazy. But then you see, okay, it was like he's not a guy. He's he's a backup quarterback. But with Brock Purdy, we haven't seen that yet. David Blough, I think, had a decent game when he was starting in place of Matthew Stafford with the Lions a couple years ago, and I remember. But he came down to earth real quick. What are we talking about with David Blough and the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, that was on Thanksgiving. It was a backup bowl against Chicago. I can't remember who was the quarterback for Chicago, but I think he threw for 280 and 2 touchdowns. He's a capable guy. Like, he's a poor man's Josh McCown, I guess. He's a guy that, he's not Nathan Peterman. Okay? So he's not the Nathan Peterman level of backup.
Poor Nathan Peterman, man. He comes in, throws 5 interceptions in his first game, and he is the most garbage quarterback of all time now.
Yeah, but he's had a job ever since.
That's true. He started the game he's starting this weekend for the Bears, I believe. Yeah, I think he's starting for the Bears, and the Bears are going to sit Justin Fields because they don't want to get him hurt for next year, and they're trying to tank for that number 1 overall pick. I think I just saw that.
And he can't throw. He just threw for 30 yards in the game. He's basically a running back that plays quarterback right now.
I don't know. I'm surprised that they're not starting Trace McSorley. Trace McSorley looked like a good NFL quarterback until you saw where the ball landed when he threw it. A guy that has great form from 3 and is just, the aim is off and the aim's never been there. That's why Trace McSorley is a backup, but he kind of plays the part. He'd be a great movie quarterback, like an actor, where it's he's got all the mechanisms down. David Blough, they're going to throw short passes. They're going to run the ball, and that's going to be it. There's going to be no DeAndre Hopkins. And it's going to be the David Blough to Greg Dortch, David Blough to Hollywood Brown. Again, James Conner, it didn't practice on Wednesday, so it may be the Corey Clement show. This is a muck box game for the Cardinals when it comes to roster. And David Blough, he's a serviceable guy that isn't going to throw 4 pick sixes. He's not going to throw 5 interceptions. He's probably going to throw, 20 for 30 for 189 and a touchdown and an interception. That's probably the line that you're going to see because they're going to run the ball. And I'm curious to see what the game plan is going to look like if this is a team that wants to end on a high note, even though they're playing a Super Bowl contender, or if they're just going to whimper with their tail between their legs into the offseason. I don't know.
I feel like this is a big Greg Dortch game.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a guy it's crazy. And I know that – so Rondale Moore was supposed to be the guy. And Rondale Moore this year was the guy. I'm sure, Croc, that you were high on him 2 years ago, except for the injuries, because he was all world his freshman year, and then he was hurt the next 2 seasons, came in. I compare Rondale Moore in space to Lamar Jackson, where it's like watching, it's like going to Disneyland as a kid, watching Lamar Jackson in space. It's like going to Disneyland as a kid, watching Rondale Moore in space. And Greg Dortch, if you ask who you'd rather give a 5-year contract to right now, I'm saying Greg Dortch, because he'll play, and when he gets the opportunity and he gets the targets, the dude's performed, and he just came out of nowhere. So yeah, I mean, he should be on the roster next year. They should extend him. He should be the wide receiver 4, and he should be the wide receiver 2 light when Rondale Moore gets hurt, which he inevitably will. So yeah, I mean, that's nail on the head with that.
Croc, how's this Niners defense going to match up with the blowtorch, the Blough-Dortch combination there?
I mean, if last game against the Raiders was any indication of how they'll play against a backup quarterback, you're probably not as optimistic. But we saw that the Raiders' backup reserve quarterback played out of his mind. Can another quarterback do that? Blough, we'll see, right? I am now not going to make any jokes and jinx the 49ers defense. They didn't play very well. And if the if the Cardinals want to throw the ball down the field, that over the last couple of games for 49ers versus Washington Commanders and now the Raiders, in the Commanders game, there were a couple throws that were converted, but then they called it back on the penalties. So, and then the last game against the Raiders, there were some, weird things happened. There was I feel like Devontae Adams, the ball was on the ground. They said he wasn't. I don't know. They reviewed it. But when you look at some of where teams have been kind of successful against the 49ers, been on the outside, down the field, or getting Troy Polamalu Jr., Talanoa Hufanga, to kind of bite and have bad eyes at times and kind of use that against his advantage, because the same thing that makes him great and awesome, you see him flying in and making tackles and making plays and interceptions and big hits, that same aggressiveness can be worked against them to potentially have a big play for the offense. So I think those are things that I'm looking to see. Can the 49ers kind of, corral that in as they head into the playoffs? Because you want to be the best version of yourself, not the worst version down the stretch. And right now, they're probably, over the last couple of games, that might be the worst version outside of an amazing year by Nick Bosa.
All right, we got to move along, make some predictions next year for Week 18, 49ers and Cardinals. Are you looking for a delicious treat, but don't want all that fat and calories? Then you got to try Built Bar. We just got through the holidays. Everyone's got their New Year's resolutions. I started mine before the new year, and it's going okay. It's going okay. But what always helps is when you're reaching for the right thing. You want that treat. You need that little something. Don't reach, go get rid of the chips. Go get rid of all the things that are bad for you in your house. Replace that junk, all the junk food in your junk drawer, wherever it is, in your purse, in your glove box, in your car, at your desk at work, right? Get rid of all that stuff. So when you reach for something, it's going to taste good. It's going to satisfy you, and it's going to be good for you. And that's what Built Bar's all about. It's healthy, and healthy is actually tasty with Built Bars. Built Bars, what makes them so good? They're all covered in 100% real chocolate, by the way. A couple flavors, if you're not a chocolate lover, that you can find that don't have. But I love it. You don't feel like you're missing out, because it's got that real. It's enveloped in that real dark 100% real chocolate. Love it so much. And crazy flavors. Like, how do they make them low in fat, low in calorie? Churro, peanut butter brownie, coconut almond. Only 130 calories in most Built Bars. Only 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now, of course, you can always buy Built Bars at built.com, but now you can find Built Bars at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head over to the nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. And at Sam's Club, you can grab a 13-bar box of all the hit flavors, brownie batter and churro. You can thank me later for all of those. So make sure you check it all out. Walmart, Sam Clubs, and of course at built.com. Okay, before I make my prediction, I just want to hear you lay it out, Alex. And I know the wins have been few and far between for the Cardinals this year, but what was the path to victory in those games? And can you lay out something that would lead the Cardinals to victory against the 49ers in Week 18? No, okay. Croc, I want to get your prediction then. No, sorry. Go ahead.
What are we doing here? No, it's the defense was not built to be the strength and anchor of this team. the offense has failed them this year. That could be Kyler Murray, could be Cliff Kingsbury, could be the injuries, whatever it is. The offense as an entity has not done their job, which made the defense look really bad at times. And what the Cardinals need to do on Sunday, all joking aside, to get a win, because crazier things have happened in this with this matchup. You know, I mean, a 14-point dog, and chances are it's not going to happen. But if the Cardinals want to win, they need to be on the field for 35 minutes of the game. 35, 38 minutes. Eat every second. That hurry up ain't doing that. Eat every second of the play clock and get first downs, score touchdowns instead of kicking field goals. And that's a recipe for success for any game. But they've got to add 5 or 7 minutes of time of possession if they want to win this game to keep the 49ers offense off the field.
Yeah, keep the ball moving, take advantage of some turnovers, some untimely things from the 49ers, right? The ball is oblong and it bounces funny. Is that the only key, Croc, for the 49ers winning this game, is roll out there and don't lose it, don't screw it up, don't fumble snaps, don't throw pick sixes?
Yeah, but part of that is football, and those things do happen, and we've seen that happen. 49ers lost to the Falcons earlier in the year. Well, what happened? You had Jeff Wilson, who's no longer on the team, but fumbled. That was returned back for a touchdown, and you kind of find yourself in the hole. Quarterback turns the ball over a couple times. Now all of a sudden, you're not only in the dogfight, you're down multiple scores to a team that you probably should, I don't want to say easily handle because it's the NFL, but you're favored in that game, even on the road. And I think this game is similar as well. There still is a guy on the other side by the name of J.J. Watt, and he can wreck shop at times. And obviously he's not 3 times in a row Defensive Player of the Year, J.J. Watt, but he's still somebody who can make impactful plays. I just saw it recently. So don't let a guy like that get in his groove. This is the last game of his career. Who wants to go out with an L? So if there's anybody that wants to win, it's him. You can't let him wreck the game and kind of fluster this young quarterback. And you talked earlier about him, Brock Purdy not turning into a pumpkin. Well, you definitely don't want him to turn into a pumpkin in this game and do some of the things he did against the Raiders. Throw a ball downfield in the double coverage, interception. Miss guys down the field, overthrowing guys like Juwan Jennings and some of those what we call layup misses or throws that we've seen him accustomed to making, miss those throws. And then all of a sudden get sacked, hit, fumble because J.J. Watt's bearing down on you. So there is a path to the 49ers losing. It's just probably just unlikely, but it can happen.
So the question is 14 points. Alex, are you going to predict an upset with those Arizona Cardinals, or would you say 49ers win, but maybe don't cover the 14 points, or are you saying 49ers landslide victory?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I don't see where the Cardinals can score enough to cover, to score enough when getting those points. The over-under is 40.5, and the line's 14. I mean, that's wild to me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like 27-10, something like that, where the Cardinals get a garbage time touchdown or some sort of random, Brock Purdy fumble, scoop and score kind of thing. With the Cardinals have an affinity to do this year with reckless abandon. They've had wild, long turnover returns for touchdowns, couple pick sixes, the scoop and score to win the game against the Raiders. Like, they've had some weird defensive touchdowns this year. And I think that could be a way that they score against this defense, unless, they're up 27-3 going into the fourth quarter and you sit all your starters and the Cardinals get a touchdown late. But I think it's around 27-10 and the 49ers cover the 14.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've got the 49ers by a lot in this one, and I think the 49ers might, in the end, thank the Raiders for last week and give DeMeco Ryan some really strong coaching points here going into Week 18. The 49ers have a lot to play for. The Philly game's going to be going on at the same time. They're fighting for that 1 seed in the NFC. Not much for the Arizona Cardinals to play for, except for J.J. Watt in his last game. It probably benefits the Cardinals to lose this game as far as draft position goes. So there's a reason it's 14 points. I'm gonna give up the points in this one and take the 49ers big. And unless you have an athletic quarterback, unless you have a Mahomes back there or an Allen or a Stidham, apparently, it's really hard to score points on the San Francisco 49ers. And the thing you laid out is those long drives and be able to run the ball and maintain the clock. I mean, it's just going to be so hard for the Cardinals to be able to do that. So I like the 49ers making the Cardinals one-dimensional. Bosa getting after David Blough and making his Sunday very miserable.
There's something about David Blough's eyebrows that bother me a lot. So I'm hoping the Niners just tattoo him just because of that. I was watching him on Hard Knocks.
Hashtag analysis.
Wow. Croc usually goes to the face mask. He's like, oh, this guy can't play because he's got the wrong face mask in.
Yeah. He got the wrong eyebrows.
Past the face mask to the eyebrows for David Blough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So next year when D'Amico Ryans is the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, I'll be sure to ask him about David Blough's eyebrows, as David Blough's probably be the practice squad quarterback next year. I'll be sure to ask him, hey, Mr. Ryans, I know you're 38 years old, but I have to ask you a child's question. What do you think about the eyebrows of the aforementioned David Blough, who started week 18 for the Arizona Cardinals? You tell me.
If your eyebrows are too bushy and you can't see past them, is it more difficult to play quarterback in the NFL? I haven't even noticed his eyebrows. Are they too big, too small?
They're very thick, and I think he like plucks them and like shapes them. That's what it looked like. I was watching. Was he on the Lions in the preseason?
Was he on the all eyebrow team? Was he most likely in high school to have the best eyebrows? What are we doing here, Croc?
I'm pretty sure it was him.
You should just wax him.
I'm pretty sure it was him. I don't even know why it bothered me. It has nothing to do with me, but I was just like, I could not stop looking at them.
Week 18,
that's what
baby.
bothered me the most.
All right.
Stop looking at those. I do have a real question for Alex, though.
Okay.
All right. And this is for all the Niner faithful out there. Where do you have Kyle Shanahan ranked as a head coach?
Aren't we done? Like, is the podcast over? Like, do I have to answer this? This is cruel and unusual.
I already know the answer to this. Alex Clancy has Kyle Shanahan ranked right behind future Cardinals head coach Jim Harbaugh.
They're the worst.
Future running back Bijan Robinson.
The worst. All the mock drafts have Bijan Robinson going for. It's the dumbest thing. Kyle Shanahan has just catapulted up this answer. I mean, he's top 5. I don't think he's one of one. He's not Andy Reid. He's not Bill Belichick. He's not Mike Tomlin. He's not John Harbaugh. Like, I would still put John Harbaugh ahead of him for the reason of stability. Do it again. Do it again. Right. Do it again. Win the division 3 years in a row.
He's going to a Super Bowl. He's going to an NFC Championship game. And right now he's potentially going to be the number 1 team in the NFC.
Last year was his
Brock
best
Purdy quarterback.
Last year was his best coaching job.
The third string quarterback, like his third, the guy that's playing quarterback right now, not 1, not 2, the third quarterback.
Yeah. And you know what? My camera's just upset at you, just massively upset.
I thought he just bailed on us.
Yeah, that would have been funny.
But Shanahan's got to win the ring. I think that's the obvious next big leap in him being in another echelon of head coach.
Yeah, but he's there. Yeah. No, last year was a masterful second half of coaching and into the playoffs. It was. Like that. That's where I was like, okay, I'm in it for good now. Once you hit that level, there's no going back. You're in the top tier. You're elite forever. And now it's just a hamster wheel. They're going to be GM and head coach for 30 years. Like, there's nothing that's going to stop them at this point. Because in my opinion, at least.
Well, especially with Brock Purdy for the next decade.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
All right. I want to thank all the listeners out there for making Locked On 49ers and Locked On Cardinals your first listen every single day. Croc and I, of course, will be back for Locked On 49ers tomorrow. You can check in with Alex Clancy. I might even make an appearance on Locked On Cardinals for the second straight episode on the Friday pod with Alex. So you might have to tune into that one as well. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen. Talk to you next time right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.